WWE is all about pushing the limits, but sometimes those limits come with serious consequences. Have you ever wondered what happens when a wrestler's body endures more than just a bruise or a scratch? From broken necks to shattered jaws, the injuries sustained in WWE are as dramatic as the matches themselves. These are the stories of wrestlers who push their limits, but sometimes the cost was more than they ever expected. Are you ready to hear about the darkest and most dangerous moments in wrestling history? Let's take a closer look at some of the scariest injuries in WWE history that made even the toughest men and women question if they'd ever return to the ring. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell icon so you never miss out on any of the shocking stories. Steve Austin. On August 3, 1997 at SummerSlam, Stone Cold Steve Austin suffered one of the most terrifying injuries in wrestling history during his match against Owen Hart for the Intercontinental Championship. The impact was devastating and instantly left Austin with a severe neck injury, temporarily paralyzing him. Austin later described the terrifying feeling, saying he couldn't feel anything below his neck and feared the worst, even comparing it to the paralysis that Christopher Reeve experienced. After a brief pause in the match, Austin somehow regained some movement. Determined not to end the match on a stretcher, he managed to pull off a roll-up pin to win, even though it wasn't very strong due to his condition. But it was enough for him to walk away with the championship. After the match, Austin looked stunned, struggling to stand and clutching the title. But the true extent of his injury became clear. He had broken his neck and suffered nerve damage, forcing him to give up the Intercontinental title just a month later. Austin spent 3 months recovering, but even with this setback, his momentum remained strong. He returned to action by the end of 1997 and went on to win the Royal Rumble in early 1998. The injury, though, had long-lasting effects. Austin had to change his in-ring style, moving away from a technical approach and focusing more on a brawler's style of fighting to protect his neck. This shift became a key part of the Stone Cold persona that helped propel him to the top of WWE. While Austin didn't hold a grudge against Owen Hart, their relationship cooled after the incident. Austin later shared that Owen only called him once to check on him after the injury, which left him disappointed. This injury, while tragic, played a major role in shaping WWE history. It marked the beginning of Austin's physical decline, eventually leading to his early retirement in 2003. But it also helped launch his career to new heights. Joey Mercury. One of the most brutal injuries in WWE history happened at the 2006 Armageddon event. Joey Mercury's injury during a 4-way tag team ladder match is unforgettable. The match featured MNM, Mercury and Johnny Nitro, the Hardys, Paul London and Brian Kendrick, and Dave Taylor and William Regal. The accident occurred when Jeff Hardy jumped onto a ladder, sending it flying into Mercury's face. The ladder rebounded violently, and Mercury didn't get his hands up in time to protect himself. The ladder hit him directly in the face, breaking his nose and orbital bone. Blood poured from the injuries, and he was left dazed, unable to continue the match. Mercury was quickly rushed to the hospital, where doctors stitched up the deep cuts on his face with 30 stitches. The image of Mercury stumbling around ringside, covered in blood, became one of WWE's most shocking injury moments. Despite the severity of the injury, Mercury never lost consciousness and remembers every painful moment. He compared the impact to being hit in the face by a 100-pound steel ladder traveling at 100 miles per hour, or like going headfirst through a car windshield without a seatbelt. Though he stayed conscious, the loss of blood forced him to leave the match. Fortunately, he recovered physically and returned to the ring in just a few weeks. However, the mental toll was much harder to deal with. Struggling with addiction before the injury, the pain from the accident worsened his dependence on painkillers, which caused his career to spiral. This eventually led to his release from WWE in 2007. Even though he healed physically, Mercury admitted that the injury deepened his struggles with addiction. Today, he's highly respected in the wrestling world for his behind-the-scenes work as a producer and trainer, making a significant impact in Ring of Honor. His journey from a life-changing injury to a successful career behind the scenes shows just how resilient and dedicated he is to the wrestling industry. Triple H. Now let's talk about Triple H, who faced two major quadriceps injuries that impacted his WWE career. The first one happened on May 21, 2001, during a tag team match on Raw. Triple H and Stone Cold Steve Austin were facing Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit when Triple H tore his quadriceps while trying to break up Jericho's Walls of Jericho submission on Austin. His left quadriceps muscle completely tore off the bone. But shockingly, he finished the match, even allowing himself to be put in Jericho's submission hold. Triple H immediately needed surgery, performed by the famous Dr. James Andrews, and doctors estimated it would take about 9 months for him to recover. After intense physical therapy, Triple H returned to the ring on January 7, 2002, in one of the most unforgettable moments in WWE history at Madison Square Garden. The crowd's reaction to his return was electric, and it marked his full-time comeback after almost 8 months of rehab. Sadly, 5 years later, on the exact day of his first return, Triple H tore his right quadriceps during a match at the 2007 New Year's Revolution event. This time, he was teaming with Shawn Michaels as D-Generation X against Rated RKO, Edge, and Randy Orton. During a routine move, Triple H felt his right quad give out. The match stopped as Triple H struggled to stay on his feet, and the referee immediately signaled for help. Once again, Triple H was diagnosed with a quadriceps tear, and Dr. James Andrews performed another surgery. This time, his recovery time was expected to be 4 to 6 months. But despite the setbacks, Triple H pushed through another round of tough rehab and returned later that same year. Both of these injuries were major challenges, but Triple H's ability to come back stronger each time proved his resilience and dedication to the sport. Triple H's injuries were bad, but they weren't life-threatening. Big E. On March 11, 2022, Big E suffered a severe neck injury during a match on SmackDown. He and his New Day partner, Kofi Kingston, were up against Ridge Holland and Sheamus in a standard tag team match when things went terribly wrong. Outside the ring, Holland attempted an overhead belly-to-belly suplex on Big E, but didn't rotate him fully, causing Big E to land directly on his head. The impact fractured the C1 and C6 vertebrae in Big E's neck. Medical staff rushed over, and he was stretchered out of the arena. Despite the serious nature of the injury, Big E kept his spirits up and even shared updates from the hospital on social media. Luckily, he avoided worse outcomes, like paralysis or spinal cord injury, and didn't need surgery. The lack of spinal cord damage meant he wouldn't face long-term neurological issues. But Big E later revealed just how close he was to a devastating outcome. He narrowly avoided a stroke, paralysis, or even death due to the severity and location of the fracture. Through it all, he expressed his deep gratitude for the support from fans, friends, and WWE colleagues. Months later, Big E continues to update fans about his condition. Though he feels good physically, his C1 vertebra hasn't fully healed. Instead of regenerating bone, it's filling in with fibrous tissue, delaying his in-ring return. He's still part of WWE shows and even helps with recruitment efforts, but his wrestling future remains uncertain. Big E's positivity and resilience have been a huge part of his recovery, and he's taking it one day at a time. He's hopeful for the future, knowing that many wrestlers have thought their careers were over, only to return stronger. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Seth Rollins. In November 2015, Rollins suffered a brutal knee injury during a WWE live event in Dublin, Ireland, while facing Kane. Rollins attempted a sunset flip powerbomb, something he'd done countless times before. But this time, the landing went wrong, and his knee buckled under him. The damage was massive. He tore his ACL, MCL, and medial meniscus in his right knee. For any wrestler, this is a nightmare injury, and for Rollins, it came at the worst time, as he was WWE World Heavyweight Champion. The injury forced him to give up the title and undergo immediate surgery with Dr. Jeffrey Dugas in Birmingham, Alabama. Recovery was expected to take 6 to 9 months. This injury meant he'd miss WrestleMania 32, where he'd been set to play a major role. Rollins worked through a tough rehab process that challenged him physically and mentally. Being away from the ring for so long made him question his future, as wrestling had been his whole life. But after months of recovery, Rollins returned to WWE at Extreme Rules in May 2016, attacking Roman Reigns in a surprise comeback that thrilled fans. Though he had to adjust his wrestling style to reduce the risk to his knee, Rollins reclaimed his spot at the top, proving he could still compete at the highest level. Finn Balor. Finn Balor's injury at SummerSlam 2016 turned out to be a huge turning point for him and WWE. On August 21, 2016, Balor went up against Rollins to crown the first ever Universal Champion, but things took a turn when Balor suffered a serious shoulder injury. Balor showed incredible toughness by pushing through to finish the match and even winning. But afterward, it was revealed that he'd torn his labrum and had additional damage to his bicep, pectoral tendon, and cartilage, far worse than a regular shoulder dislocation. Balor needed surgery immediately, which he had just days later. Heartbreakingly, he had to give up his newly won Universal Championship the night after SummerSlam on Monday Night Raw. Doctors estimated he'd be out for 6 to 9 months, and he even underwent a second procedure involving stem cell treatment to speed up his healing. The injury was a tough setback for Balor. He'd just been called up to WWE's main roster and was set to become a top star on Raw. Despite his frustration, Balor kept a positive mindset, believing the setback was part of his journey. His recovery involved deep reflection and intense rehab, and he finally made his comeback in 2017. Though his momentum was interrupted, Balor's resilience through it all became a defining part of his career. John Cena. John Cena, whose torn pectoral muscle in October 2007 was a significant moment in his career and for WWE. The injury happened during a match on Monday Night Raw against Mr. Kennedy. While attempting a hip toss, Cena completely tore his right pectoral muscle. Amazingly, despite the injury, Cena finished the match and even participated in a planned post-match attack by Randy Orton. Afterwards, doctors confirmed the worst. Cena had completely torn his pectoralis major muscle, and it had detached from the bone, which made it a complicated case requiring surgery. The very next day, Cena went under the knife with Dr. James Andrews in Birmingham, Alabama. WWE officials expected him to be out for 6 months to a year, and he had to give up his WWE Championship, which he'd held for over a year. Each of these injuries was a huge blow for these wrestlers, but the way Rollins, Balor, and Cena handled their recoveries speaks volumes about their toughness and commitment to their craft. This marked a major shift in WWE's storylines. Right after Cena had to vacate his title, Randy Orton seized the opportunity, capturing it at the No Mercy Premium live event. But, true to his relentless persona, Cena's recovery defied all expectations. In just over 3 months, he shocked fans by making a surprise comeback at the 2008 Royal Rumble, entering as the final participant and winning the match. His fast recovery only added to his superhuman reputation, highlighting his incredible work ethic and resilience. Randy Orton. On June 1, 2008, Randy Orton suffered a serious injury during the One Night Stand Premium Live event. In a last man standing match against Triple H for the WWE Championship, Orton attempted his signature RKO, but Triple H countered, sending Orton flying over the top rope. He landed awkwardly on the outside, breaking his left collarbone. Orton's injury was severe enough that he couldn't continue the match and was rushed for medical attention. WWE's medical team quickly transported him to a nearby hospital in San Diego, where it was confirmed that his collarbone was broken, showing significant bruising and swelling. Initially, WWE estimated that Orton would recover within 2 to 3 months. However, things took a turn when Orton re-injured the same collarbone in a motorcycle accident later that August, which delayed his return to the ring even further. At the time, Orton was one of WWE's top heels, and his absence disrupted some major storylines. He missed key events, including SummerSlam 2008. But, despite these setbacks, Orton bounced back, returning stronger by the end of the year and reclaiming his place as a top star in WWE. Sometimes, though, injuries can actually help boost a wrestler's career. Beth Phoenix. Beth Phoenix's broken jaw in 2006 was a devastating moment early in her career. After earning her spot on the main roster, she made her singles debut on Raw on June 5, 2006, facing Victoria. During the match, Victoria slapped her, a seemingly routine move, but Beth's mouth was slightly opened, and the impact shattered her jaw. At first, Beth thought she just lost a tooth, but when she saw everyone around her recoil, she realized it was much worse. She was rushed to the hospital, where x-rays confirmed her jaw was shattered, dislocated, and out of place, needing reconstructive surgery with steel plates and screws. For Beth, the injury took both a physical and emotional toll. She had just started her WWE journey, and now she feared it might be over. But her recovery was remarkable. After months of rehab, Beth returned to WWE's developmental program, OVW, to rebuild her career. By 2007, she was back on the main roster and went on to become a 3-time Women's Champion and a Divas Champion, leaving her mark on WWE as one of its strongest female competitors. Her comeback story is a testament to the power of perseverance and determination. This early setback shaped Beth's grit and determination, and she has since been inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, honored for her role in advancing women's wrestling. Beth's journey continues to inspire future generations of female wrestlers, showing that setbacks don't define you. Tegan Knox. Another WWE star who's battled through an incredible series of injuries is Tegan Knox. Tegan's journey in wrestling has been heavily affected by several brutal knee injuries, starting even before she made a big splash in WWE. In 2017, she was all set to compete in the first ever Mae Young Classic tournament. But just days before it began, she suffered her first major setback, a torn ACL in her right knee. This injury forced her to sit out the entire tournament and undergo surgery. Tegan spent almost a year in recovery and finally made her return in April 2018, determined to make her presence felt. But during the 2018 Mae Young Classic, disaster struck again. In the quarterfinals against Rhea Ripley, Tegan went for a high-risk move, a suicide dive outside the ring, but her left knee suddenly gave out. She tried to keep going, but the pain was too much, and the match had to be stopped. This injury was even worse than the first one. She had torn her ACL, MCL, LCL, both menisci, dislocated her kneecap, and fractured her tibia. Tegan later described it as her knee exploding. She started yet another tough recovery process, staying resilient. But in 2020, while rehabbing, she tore her ACL once more, marking her third ACL injury in just 4 years. This meant more time away from the ring, yet Tegan's spirit remained unbroken. Each time, she pushed through, showing her resilience and deep love for wrestling. She continues to inspire fans with her courage and dedication, always fighting her way back to the ring. In the brutal world of WWE, the line between glory and pain can often be dangerously close. The injuries sustained by these iconic wrestlers are a testament to the unimaginable challenges they face. From Steve Austin's near career-ending neck injury to Tegan Knox's multiple ACL tears, these athletes push their bodies to the limit, showing what true resilience looks like. Their journeys highlight the importance of perseverance, the determination to keep fighting despite the odds, and the unbreakable strength of the human spirit. Let us know in the comments. And before you go, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Ring Rivals so you won't miss our upcoming videos. Thanks for being with us through this video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your subscription helps us continue creating quality content for you.